not love. If your love is bound to maintain, you got to knock the legs with an eye. Don't throw a stone, you don't know. Stop what you say, it's what you do. Don't throw your stone.
Hello, welcome back to Out on That Line, the music podcast from Geoff Greenmore and Alex Koch. This is track 3, which I think, Alex, means we're on a streak. Is that right?
I think that's correct, Jeff. If you want my professional podcasting analysis, and let's not forget I am on 2 podcasts, so I am a professional podcaster. You've used the correct terminology here, Jeff. This is, in fact, what we in the business call a streak, yes. It's when you've come back for at least 2 episodes. Congratulations, Jeff. From me to you, this is tremendous.
Well, it's just nice to be here, to be part of the team, get out there and just do our jobs, This week, we have 2 great albums. Well, 2 pretty good albums.
We have 2 albums.
We have 2 albums. First one is going to be by Thundercat. It's going to be It Is What It Is. The second album we'll talk about is going to be the 1975, called Notes on a Conditional Form. Both of their latest albums. We're going to start with the Thundercat album. Now, I really actually enjoyed this album. I think it was a lot different than something I normally would have been into. Just very kind of experimental, R&B, funk, jazz. It's a lot of stuff in the pot that he was mixing up here. I really did enjoy it, and I think digging into it a little bit and finding out how many people he's worked with. Mac Miller, Flying Lotus. All these folks that are really kind of big in the music industry, and he's just someone I hadn't heard of, but now that I have, I'm glad I did, because it seems like he really has a grasp on just making whatever music he wants, but making it always sound pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. That's kind of what the whole story is behind those 3 guys that you mentioned, Flying Lotus, Mac Miller, Thundercat. So Thundercat in particular started out with suicidal tendencies. He was their bassist from like 2002 to 2011 maybe. But he was like a bass prodigy. When he was 15, he like already had, I don't know what the song was, but some measurable radio hit. So like super talented bassist, super talented musician, very interesting guy. He and Mac Miller and Flying Lotus all are kind of in the same boat, where it's like they had these debuts that were definitely strong, but were heading in the direction of putting them in a box, especially like Mac Miller. We talked a little bit before the show how his like 2018, 2020 posthumous release output is all tremendously like mature, really interesting work. But the only way that I knew Mac Miller when I was younger was because my sister listened to it, and she was listening to it in the days when he was like a wicked frat rapper. He was doing that like crazy ass kids knocking at the funky door, let him in, that kind of bullshit.
Yeah,
which is not at all an accurate representation of what he had inside of him and what he became. And he was a super tortured individual, so that's obviously tragic, and he met a tragic end. But all of those guys, Flying Lotus, Thundercat, Mac Miller, were able to kind of break out of the mold and get really experimental and really honest with what they were doing with their music, and very personal. And this album, It Is What It Is definitely no exception, because it is a tribute to Mac Miller. It it started off, I think some of the songs weren't intended that way, but it became dedicated to him. And then the later songs, particularly the last couple ones on the album, were they turned into these tributes to Mac Miller and this kind of rumination on losing this close friend. So I realize I'm kind of rambling a bit and throwing a lot at you, but as you can tell, I'm also extremely enthused about this album and everything that goes into it.
Well, I'm glad you gave all that background, because I was going to bring up, at the end, the last song called It Is What It Is, the title song from the album, he does say halfway through, it's got lyrics in the beginning, which I was going to ask you if you thought were totally all about Mac Miller, or if the first part was about someone else. But at halfway through the song, he says, "Hey, Mac."
Yep.
And then it goes into this kind of experimental, like just interlude, instrumental to end the album. And I was reading about that, and apparently after Mac Miller passed away, that was the first song that they came up with that they had to go back to work, a few days later, and that was the first thing that they could play music-wise after he had passed away together. So I thought that was really cool to include that, because they said it came from such a place of pain, and it is, it's an instrumental, so there's no lyrics to go along with that. But when you hear about the background of it and why they did it and what that meant to them, it really becomes one of the more powerful parts of the album.
Oh, absolutely. And like to color that out further, what I read was they, like you said, had to go back just days after he passed, and they were sitting and thinking about, literally days ago, our friend was still with us, and we had just spoken to him. It's not like losing contact with someone for years and then you find out that they died. It's like someone you see all the time and you don't expect this from. So they're in that headspace, and now they have to go into the recording studio and they have to come up with something. And Flying Lotus was like, we just sat there for hours. We had fucking nothing. We're shells of ourselves. But then all of a sudden, Thundercat, whose real name is Steve, just started to, something came to him, and he just said, turn the recording equipment on, and he got in there and just started improvising the basis for all of that. And I love that it was an instrumental piece, because I think if you're that, here's the thing about Thundercat. His music is entirely predicated on his emotions. And I know you can say, like, well, shouldn't every musician be that way? But he has this uncanny ability to take whatever he's feeling and turn instrumentation into an expression of that. You don't really need the words. He's got them, and they're great. But he's able to do something with the music that's so expressive that when he goes to pay tribute to Mac Miller, I think that's the only way he could do it. I think if he tried to put it into words, it would be nowhere near as kind of fitting and profound a tribute, I think. That last, like, crazy little experimental send-off that he does is picture perfect. That's the magic of fucking Thundercat, baby. This is dessert first.
It's the and for folks that haven't seen Eddie and the Cruisers, but it's the Tom and Eddie dynamic. It's the words and music. And I think what that means to me with this song is that when he's putting together an instrumental, Mac Miller was always the one that would put on the vocals, that would do the words. He was responsible for those. So I think with him leaving this without vocals on it is leaving the space for Mac.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's kind of how
actually.
That's kind of how I looked at it, and just knowing how deeply it affected him to lose Mac Miller, and really, I think there's a lot of people that it really deeply affected as well, because I think he was a pretty good light in this world. I think he was a pretty, in general, awesome person. But you can feel that throughout this album with the way that he sings, because you can hear these little spots where he's like, okay, I'm getting happy, and then all of a sudden you're pulled back into this, there's always this kind of space theme that he keeps going back into throughout the album. And I feel like that space is like when he gets pulled back to a spot where you can't really feel anything.
He never stays in one spot too long. He's always the themes that he's exploring and the sounds, just like the tone shifts song to song. He doesn't stay on anything for too long, which is really kind of cool. I think it frustrated a lot of people who just got like whiplash from how he's up and down and up and down and up and down. But I think that's part of what's so fucking great about it.
Yeah, I think it's really him dealing with the emotions, and obviously with him being a prodigious musician. Clearly, I mean, the bass playing throughout this album is absolutely incredible. I mean, some of the best I've ever heard, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. And I probably haven't listened to as many virtuoso bassists as I should to say something like that. But as far as what I've heard, and all the music that I've listened to in my life, this bass playing on this album is some of the best that I've heard. There's some spots where I was like, how did he do that?
Oh, yeah. You're not telling tales out of school, man. It's fucking... He's like the master of so many styles. He can play like a fat, stinky bass for funk, like a funk bass. But then he does a lot of like weird acid jazz experimentation on this, which like I've kind of gotten into Japanese acid jazz. That's kind of a fun thing. But there's just like the bass is never too overwhelming in that. It's such a fixture in funk, but in like acid jazz, it plays along. You don't really notice it until you do, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. And that's just everything on this album. He's either leading with it or he's leading from behind with this fucking groove. He's such a fucking nasty bassist.
Yeah, it's just always present, no matter what song it is. I mean, if he's got a bass in his hand, I feel like you're not going to go wrong.
Oh yeah.
I really like the way that this album started, and I was almost thinking that we were getting another concept album the way this one started.
Yeah.
Because it was, it starts out and it seems, the first song on the album, Lost in Space / Great Scott / 20 through 26. Quite a long name, but it seems like he's kind of been in a coma or just not conscious for a while, and it's now he's waking up. And then you go into Interstellar Love, and I think he had a quote where he says, so you go from being lost in space and then suddenly thrust into purpose, is how he thought of these two songs that kind of go together. So in my mind, I was like, oh, we got a whole another concept album, but it wasn't necessarily a straight concept all the way through. I guess his emotions were the concept for the whole thing, but not a particular linear story or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, he goes into all different kind of things. Like one of my standouts that I have here, and not to get away from the title track, but or not title track, the first song. But one of the first ones for me that kind of made me perk up my ears and be like, oh, okay, the cat is back, ladies and gentlemen. Was I Love Lewis Cole.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. You know the story behind that one?
It's a friend of his named Lewis Cole, right? That was introduced to him when they were younger.
Friends with this other dude whose name was like Austin Peralta or something. And it was Thundercat's friend. And this Austin guy just always kept being like, you got to meet my friend Lewis Cole. You got to meet my friend Lewis Cole. And Thundercat was like, and I just started to resent this guy because it's all my friend would talk about. And I was like, fuck this guy. He's probably whack. And then one night he was like, you got to come see Lewis Cole play. And so Thundercat went with his friend Austin to see that. And they brought their instruments along because they were going to go do something afterwards. But it turned out to be a trick because as soon as they got to the venue, Thundercat found out he was playing bass with Lewis Cole. So the first time they met, they were fucking around doing a gig together. And since then, they became super duper fast friends. And unfortunately, that guy Austin has died since then. So it's kind of this song that's for him, about Lewis Cole, about Austin. Like, hey, because of Austin, we found each other and we're such good friends. And like, we carry on as his friends. And this is just a little something we hacked off for him. So I think that's a pretty cool story behind this fucking Zappa-esque acid jazz fun ass time.
And to go along with that on that I Love Lewis Cole, I like that song a lot because it was very just a snappy beat, just very upbeat song. It kind of throughout the whole album there were these spots where I found myself just kind of dancing on my own. Didn't really realize that I was doing it, but it was because the music was so good and grooving so hard that I just couldn't help it. I really like that one because. And the 1975 does it as well on one of their songs called "Guys" on the album that they came out. It's like it's like a love song to your friends.
Yeah.
So it's like a song that I would write for you and Rory and Tanner and Mitch and Dante and Reno and all the guys back home and Colin all these folks that that I don't get to see anymore really at all, but that spent tons of my formative years with and just spent so much time with. These are the kind of songs where it's like. Not only did I not really think of a love song to your friends, but in the same week, I've found 2 new ones.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a sign. Yeah, serendipity.
No, yeah, I agree. And I will tell you what, it kind of more so struck me on the 1975, that song, particularly because it's the last song on the album. I got to that and I was like, oh, okay. And it was one that made me stop and really consider it and look up the lyrics. And I was like, this is a great idea. And then, yeah, lo and behold, Thundercat as well is putting down those same themes. So it's a cool idea for a song that, yeah, I dig what you're putting down, Geoff.
Yeah. I mean, it's just nice to have that, I don't know. It seems like a wall got kind of broken down with a song like that.
Yeah.
Maybe there were a bunch of them before this that I didn't know about, but now I know about it. So for me, that wall got broken down. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I want to call some attention to the one that I put the star next to first, House Sway. Now, if we're talking bass lines, if we're talking bass playing, this is what I was thinking of when I heard this. I was like, I'm not sure I've heard anything better than this ever in my life. It is incredible.
Oh yeah.
He can play so fast, but it never. So to me, I guess, let me sidetrack a little. When I think of like virtuoso guitar players and things like that, to me, there's always, it goes too far into, let me see how many notes I can squeeze into this measure.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see how fast I can play. Let me see how much I can, if I can stretch my thumb, to play one note, my pinky to play the other, and I can stretch further than anybody else can. I can only, it's like it's almost like treating guitar and music playing like it's a competition, that you're trying to just basically do better than the last guy.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, kind of missing the point of music when you do stuff like that.
Oh, for sure.
It's not, I feel like music is meant to obviously let you communicate with somebody, let you feel something, realize that you're not alone. There's a lot of emotional, spiritual things that music does for you. I don't think, Steve Vai playing 30 different notes in a single measure, that's not going to do anything for me.
It's impressive.
So you get these. It is, it takes practice. I can tell this guy's spent half his life literally playing guitar, and that's it,
Yeah.
And it's, so you hear a lot of those virtuoso people, and the music doesn't tend to evoke a lot of emotion because they don't have that part. All they really can focus on is being extremely good at playing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's extremely good at playing, as good as anybody I've heard. But at no point did I feel like he's just doing this because he wants to impress me. Like, he's doing this because this is the right thing for the song. This is the emotion he's trying to give us, and that's just how he has to play it to do that.
Yeah, he's just a little kid with a butterfly net just running through the meadow trying to catch that fucking idea. It's like Moby Dick for kids. Like, he's but no, absolutely. Like, it's just fascinating to listen to and kind of join him while the whole thing is also inspired by that ridiculous fight that Kanye and Sway got into on whatever that show is. Is it called How Sway? Sway.
I don't know what the show is called, but I do remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But it was just
either.
It's, I mean,
House of Sway.
We can do whatever you want. We can say whatever you want about Kanye. I got no love lost for that guy, but
no.
It's but it's
he's given us so many moments.
Yeah, right. So many good moments, but just has just fallen off. So
much great music, and then we're getting off topic, but like, yeah, the Kanye thing. We could fill a whole issue, like the people versus Kanye West. Where do we stand?
Yeah, and it's just like as many duds as there was on his early albums, there was only that many good songs on his later ones. I don't know. I feel like we're getting very sidetracked by
yes.
Kanye.
No
West
more
here.
airtime to Kanye. God damn it.
Yeah, no free ads, Kanye.
Not during Thundercat time.
Yeah. So yeah, we can. So Houseway, absolutely go check that one out if you enjoy musicianship. Stumbled over that a little bit. If you enjoy hearing people that are extremely good at their craft, Houseway is a great example of that. There's plenty on this album, but that is the one that I'll go to first every time if I'm trying to figure out where his bass playing was best. That was the spot. We can keep moving right along the album because there's a lot of little interludes that I enjoyed here. It definitely may not have been a concept album totally as far as the storyline goes, but everything felt cohesive throughout the whole album. As you move through different parts, there was obviously some really fast kind of frantic jazz. There was some really slow R&B kind of soul areas, but none of it felt like it wasn't all part of the same album.
Oh yeah.
It's really kind of nice when artists can sequence things like that. And you'll notice between tracks, there's very rarely any cutoff. You don't really notice when you switch to the next track with him until you hear a different melody. And then you're like, oh, well, this sounds like a different song than I was just listening to. But he's so good at just melding one into another that you don't notice that. It just makes it all one experience as you listen to the album.
Yeah, and it's kind of like coming from the world of musical theater. Oftentimes, especially towards the end of an act or something, you would have a bunch of songs that are stitched together. It's sort of like song turducken. It's like 3 separate songs directly in sequence with one another under the umbrella of one larger song, and they just all seamlessly kind of fit and can weave in and out of each other. And that's something he does a lot on this album where, like you're saying, like they just flow one right into the other, so it makes for like uninterrupted listening. The biggest smash you're gonna get though is when Black Qualls kicks in. That song, the bass on that one, of course, you know, fucking tremendous. Steve Lacy, Steve Arrington on that. They added a verse for Gambino. I mean, it's a star-studded buffet, Jeff. I hope you brought your bib.
I did. I really enjoyed that one. That was really funky, kind of R&B heavy song for me, and I really enjoyed it. You know, it was especially after the I Love Lewis Cole song. You know, where that one's really quick, really kind of almost frantic, like just a very nice upbeat song. And then you get into Black Qualls, and it's, you know, this one is clearly making a statement as well. You know, it's just it's kind of, you know, talking about the black experience and everything. And Black Qualls, I read, is meant to be like black walls,
black paranoia.
Yeah, it's you know, these things that, you know, that black people have to fight against that are invisible to a lot of folks, but are real prejudices, you know, systemic racism, all these things that they have to fight against that you don't see plain with your eyes as we do recently, obviously, but you know, you don't see it quite as much. And I felt like it was throughout this, they did a very good job of kind of addressing that, you know, and kind of expressing that this isn't like a physical thing I can show you that happens to us, you know, but it's a feeling that we have, and this is what that feeling is.
Well, and that's what's so effective about it too, is because you can have people whose lyrics are like overtly political and direct. Like there's this group, and I'm remiss, I totally forget their name. They're a British punk band. Let me see if I can look it up. And their name is a takeoff on Bob Dylan. So what was it? Bob Villain. Bob Villain. Okay, I'm glad that came to me. I didn't have to go on a little trip for biscuits here. But yeah, they're two black punks from the UK, and their stuff is like combatively political, and it's right on the nose. And I'm not knocking that. I mean, that has its place, obviously, in something like the punk tradition, and they do a fucking great job with it. The cool thing about Black Qualls is the lyrics obviously paint the story, but are not super overt, and the music is super overt. The feeling that you get from just that like creepy kind of walk that the bass takes, it does feel like someone creeping up behind you. It has this very paranoid sound to it. So when you marry those two things, you get this really visceral feeling. Whereas when you hear someone yelling about it, you're like, shit, yeah, I absolutely like understand his anger. But with this, you understand just this, like you said, the unseen force that they must feel. You obviously, I'm not saying like this song will help you understand the black experience if you're white. Isn't that convenient? But what I am saying is like he does an amazing job of expressing the emotions associated with that so that you feel them extremely viscerally. Yeah.
You know, and I think just to kind of say a line, if folks haven't listened to the album, that to kind of describe what we're talking about is, I just bought a crib on top of the hill and I bought a brand new ride, and am I keeping it real? There's nothing wrong if you got it. I'm not living in fear. I'm just being honest. What that is them saying, well, I've had all this success. Should I enjoy it, or am I going to be looked at negatively for enjoying this wealth and this fame? You know, and it's because, you know, for me, obviously I'm not black nor famous, so I don't know the perspective for either of those things. But, you know, I can imagine for him, you know, there's a lot of that draw of saying like, don't forget where you came from. You know, you shouldn't be flaunting it too much, but why not? You know, and that's the kind of thing that I don't think I would have to deal with if I were to reach his level of fame and success. I wouldn't have to have that thought, you know, and I think that's what they're trying to express to us, is that there's a different world that they have to deal with that we don't necessarily have to deal with.
Totally. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a fucking really, he goes about it in such a really evocative, powerful way. It's really, really fucking cool.
Yeah, I'd certainly recommend. That's another strong one. You know, I feel like every song we've talked about from him is a strong one. It's good, just a good album in general.
Yeah.
But we'll keep moving along. I want to jump over to Dragon Ball Durag.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah. Simply because obviously as a red-blooded American, I watched hours and hours of Dragon Ball Z.
As was your duty.
Yeah, I mean, you had to do it. After school, you get home, Dragon Ball's on for an hour on Cartoon Network, got to watch it.
Yeah,
Toonami, I think was what that was called, that afternoon block.
I thought that was the late night block, but maybe it was the afternoon. I don't remember.
I think that was Toonami. Was that the late? I don't know. Who knows? Whatever.
Toonami,
It was on after school. Whatever. It was on after school. I loved it. This one was another kind of very like 70s soul kind of funky song. Very, very smooth. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that because I don't necessarily like yacht rock.
Here's the thing, Jeff. Thundercat loves yacht rock. He has a song that I would like you to listen to called Show You the Way. Would you take care to venture a guess who the two guest vocalists on that are?
Is it Hall & Oates?
No. I guess I walked into that by saying two people. But you're warm. What two people you think it was that you know I listen to? Big yacht rock guys. It's also
Michael
not Steely
McDonald.
Dan. Michael McDonald was one, and Kenny Loggins was the other.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Loggins and Messina. I wish I didn't know so much about it.
Hey,
I just wish I didn't know.
You're welcome. Don't see, Thundercat is a disciple of the smooth. He has updated the smooth, and he's giving it
maybe
to you.
maybe the walls are cracking. I don't know. We'll
like
see.
that.
We'll see.
I like where this is going.
But I really, that one was great because it's kind of a love song. It's like, but it's one of those ones where he's still nervous. It's not. You hear it and you're like, oh, this is gonna be a smooth like Marvin Gaye, like I'm gonna lay you down, baby. I'm gonna make.
If Marvin Gaye was like super insecure, then yeah.
Yeah, that it was definitely less of a like R. Kelly type song, where it's like that, just dripping in just sex, like I'm gonna love you up, baby, like that kind of stuff. Like I don't know how dumb I sound saying that, but but it's really I don't know, it's just a funny perspective because it's like everybody can relate to being like nervous, like, and if someone gave you a compliment on one item of clothing, you're going to wear that a lot. And that was kind of the sense I got about his do-rag. And I liked how every time the word do-rag was said in the song, it was the same melody. Yeah, every single time. And there was that little like backing vocal that he always had with it too. It was like a little, yeah, it was just a very, very good song. It kind of gave me a little bit of like Redbone feeling by Childish Gambino, like that.
I can see that.
That same kind of just very slow grooving, like, but it's just a smooth song. Just a very, very good song.
Those Dragon Ball, whenever he hit, or when he hits do-rag, every time he does that, it's peak McDonald. The first time I heard it, I was like, he truly sits under the yacht rock learning tree, man. That is such a Michael McDonald vocal. And I know that means little to you, but it means so much to me.
But the thing is, I mean, I'm familiar enough with yacht rock from having hung out with you and Tanner, and then just generally, I mean, it's popular music, so like it was on the radio and stuff all the time growing up. So it's not as if I'm unaware of it. Maybe that's why I didn't like it so much, is because I heard it all the time.
Give in.
I did write the words very smooth, and when I wrote them, I did have in mind that it sounded like yacht rock to me.
You felt powerful
but
when
you
wrote that. Admit it.
A little bit. My hand was shaking. And I don't think I'm old enough for Parkinson's yet, so I had to.
But you are old enough for the smooth.
Yeah, had to have been the Thundercat. All right. Did you have any others on the album that you wanted to give special shine to?
I had others I could talk about, but I feel like we've kind of plumbed the thunder depths. I think it's just a fucking really awesome album. I love that it kind of transforms into this, late in the game dedication to Mac Miller. Because it kind of makes sense, too, if you follow the flow of the album. Like you say, he's floating through space. He shoots into focus. He's riding that focus through some really funny and really heartfelt songs. And then all of a sudden, it takes a hard left turn towards the back, like, quarter of the album, where it becomes really introspective. And it becomes more experimental, I think, in a lot of ways, especially the last song, It Is What It Is. So it's just kind of interesting to see, like, it wasn't overproduced. They didn't say it's too much Mac Miller material, or there's no unity of theme here. Like this, this wants to be a concept album, but it's more conceptual. Like this doesn't all fit. They didn't try to package it in any other way than what he came up with. And I think that is what's so cool about it is it's pure off the tap of Thundercat's brain, baby.
Yeah, it was. I will absolutely say, go ahead and stream that one. Do not skip it because you will enjoy. I think it runs like 37 minutes. I mean, it's a short album. It's a hot album.
Yep.
It'll groove all the way through. It's a good one.
Lends itself to
now,
repeat listenings.
Yes. Now, steering completely out of that skid. The 1975 Notes on a Conditional Form is a long album. Sorry about that one, Alex. I did not realize when I chose how long that album was. I just knew they had a new one out, and I figured we should go over it.
You never have to apologize for sending me a long album, but you do owe me an apology for sending me this album.
Well, we can. Yeah,
you like that?
I feel like we're gonna have some things to say about this one. This album for me, I will say off the bat, I think more of a miss for me than a hit. There were certainly songs on it that I really enjoyed, but I never felt like at any point that there was a lot of cohesion going on here. It seemed like, and I'm not familiar with 1975. I did a little bit of research on them and everything, and kind of looked into their history, and it sounds like he was kind of a prodigy almost to start with. He was very young when they first got popular. So I really feel like there's a lot of lyrics in general on this album that are very millennial things. They're not even millennial. What's the one right after us? The Gen Z?
Zoomers or Gen Z, I think.
Zoomers.
Does it make me a boomer for asking that?
I guess, yeah. Okay, boomer. Yeah, I hit you with it. It's it's very much. There's a lot of lyrics that I just don't really relate to.
No.
In here, like the types of parties that he goes to and things like that. So, there's a lot of songs that if I couldn't really relate to them, they didn't really resonate with me that well. And I felt like, I don't know. I mean, we could really cut a promo on this guy because I really feel like he thinks extremely highly of himself.
Oh,
with
you
the way
don't
that
say.
He writes. Yeah, and it really comes through, and I just don't feel like there's enough there for him to be that cocky.
No.
Am I being too nice?
No. The lyrics on this thing are as fucking deep as a puddle. He goes on and on and on and on about how fucking stupid and useless and shallow everybody else is, and how he thinks that by sprinkling a little introspection in that it gets him away with this fucking navel gazing, but it doesn't. Excuse it. You're an asshole, dude. You sound like the world's biggest asshole when I listen to some of these fucking songs. That being said, There were a couple on here I really liked and legitimately enjoyed. There were some I tolerated. There were some that made me want to find this guy and scream in his face. Matty Healy, what the hell?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the couple that had Phoebe Bridgers on them, I thought were decent.
Yes.
I
love
but
Phoebe
I also ended up reading like interviews by him and stuff, and that didn't help.
That was my mistake as well.
Yeah, that didn't help at all. That was like and I mean, could be a hot take. That was like reading an interview from like Dave Grohl or somebody, where it's like they just consider themselves like an arbiter of what's good and right in music, and their way goes. And I'll probably catch a lot of flack from some of the listeners about what I just said, but I'm ready for it. I got my helmet on.
Well, this guy's on fucking track to outpace Dave Grohl in the asshole category pretty quick from the stuff that I read.
Yeah. And David Draymond too from Disturbed. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but it's just they both love to just sit back and reminisce about how awesome they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time. It's classic. My word of the day is navel gazing. It's just you're obsessed with one thing, and that one thing is yourself. That's so fucking lame. That doesn't make for compelling art. It doesn't make for compelling interviews. It's just horse shit. It's horse hockey, as Gramps would say.
Yeah, I mean, this album was an hour and 20 minutes. 80 minutes. 80 minutes. And there was about 12 of them that I would go back to.
That were worth a good goddamn.
Yeah. I think Roadkill, I don't know if that was one of the ones that you had on your list as one that you liked.
I had my notes say that I want to like this, but it feels like he's taking the piss out of country music.
Yep.
And like in a condescending way, you know, people have done parody country songs that aren't making fun of country. They're making fun of an idea in country. This just felt like he was saying, if you like country music, you're a dumb piece of shit. And I didn't much care for that.
You know, I think I didn't quite get that sense from it, but I'm not going to argue with you with kind of any bad thing you have to say about the guy. So if that's the way we want to go with that, then I'm totally good with it because, I do think he's got some talent there. The production of the songs is good.
Yes.
I'm not going to take that away. The production of the music is very good, but he's got to let someone else handle the lyrics.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And not because he doesn't know how to put a verse together. I mean, everything rhymed, everything fit, everything sounded good when you just listen to it. But when you read the lyrics and you read what he's trying to say, and certainly how he's tried to make this seem like again, not a concept album, but like an artistic statement.
Oh, yeah.
Is how he presented this album.
Yeah.
And I think he paired it with the last album they did as well as like some sort of
It's part of a
music
2-album cycle, he says.
Yeah, car music or something like that. Don't bother. I don't give a shit about any of that.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite song on the album was the first song because it was just a speech by Greta Thunberg about climate change.
Yeah, I mean, I want to backtrack for a minute before I get into the songs proper. But with him, you were talking about how with his lyrics, like, oh, hey, it technically counts as a lyric, which is faint and damning praise, and everything rhymed. But that was the problem, is half the time when I'm looking at the lyrics and listening to him sing, I'm like, he's literally just rhyming words. He's like, sitting in the tub, give my cat a scrub with my best friend Bub. Like, it's just these like sophomoric, ham-fisted attempts to make things rhyme. It's not deep. It's not compelling. It's just like structural, and it's not at all interesting in any way. And the other problem is that fucking delivery that he has when he sings. I am the type of person that if you're Tom Waits, if you're Elvis Costello, if you're Bob fucking Dylan, if you're Van Morrison, if you're someone, Amy Winehouse, Brittany Howard from Alabama Shakes, if you are someone with a really unconventional but unique voice, I'm going to love it. I don't care if it's even a classically bad voice. Like Bob Dylan can't carry a tune in a fucking bucket, but it works for what he's doing and it's unique. And so I appreciate that. This generic ass, wispy, Matty Healy vocal bullshit is a popcorn fart. It robs songs that I otherwise probably would have liked, released with a different singer and probably by a different artist, that I probably would have loved. And I unfortunately forgot to mark the one, but I remember I was listening to it and I was like, if this other person had done it, I would have loved it. I think it was Thundercat. I was like, if Thundercat had done this, I'd be all over it. But this guy's voice and his lyrics are just not up to the fucking task.
Yeah, and it seems like when he tries to, you can tell the songs that he's really trying to make an artistic statement are the ones that fall absolutely the flattest for me. And if he were to hear that, I just get the sense that he would just say, oh, you don't get it.
Yeah, he would talk down to you about what a stupid idiot you are. Because the thing that I did for this, I found out that, first of all, what a hardo move. He officially partnered with Genius, the lyrics site, and did commentary track by track for this giant piece of shit.
Yep.
And God bless me, I went through every single one and I read what he had to say. And that is where I realized, I'm like, this guy's full of shit and he's a major douchebag. He was talking about some of these songs. On one of them, I think it was on Roadkill, he was talking about being at a truck stop and seeing knives for incels. And I go, how did you know it was a knife for an incel? Like, what specifically makes it an incel knife? I think you're just saying things because you think it's what you're supposed to do. Like, I was in Texas and I want to talk about how crappy and restrictive and backwards Texas is. So, incel, Antifa knife. Like, he's just throwing words out there. You listen to him talk about.
Oh, it's right at the end. Yeah, he says, I'm going to get a gun, but it's for my protection, or maybe I'll get myself a fun knife.
Yeah. Inspired by his visit to a truck stop in the South. We get it, dude. We get it. We understand. You have a very low opinion of everyone who's not Matty Healy. But it's just like that, I think, was why I have such vitriol towards the album, because when you see it written in front of you and you listen to him with this fucking delivery, you're like, sir, you've never been in a fight in your life and it shows.
Yeah, how dare you put this in front of me?
Pick it up.
How dare you besmirch the Out on That Line podcast with this album?
I demand
And
a
shit,
formal apology.
I wish I knew more about the 1975 before this, because I probably wouldn't have picked this one.
Here's the thing that I knew about 1975 before this podcast. My roommate from Brooklyn, who had really bad taste in music, they were one of his favorite bands. And he had me listen to a song that apparently they have described as their We Didn't Start the Fire. Now, maybe this is a hot take, but We Didn't Start the Fire fucking sucks. It's a gimmick song. It's not a good song. It's just,
why would someone think that's...
Apparently, We Didn't Start the Fire was making a big statement, Jeff. You and I are too stupid to get it.
I mean, it's just a bunch of words jumbled together.
Children of the little mind. Like, tell me again how that changed the world.
I mean, of all the Billy Joel songs, I mean, there's...
And I'm pro Joel. I'm pro Joel.
I'm big time pro Joel. Like, of all the Billy Joel songs, like, that's not the one you pick.
No.
If you want to compare, like, I'd pick, scenes from an Italian restaurant. If I'm going to be like, oh, this is our version or our equivalent of that, it's like, maybe pick one that's good.
Captain Jack, something like that. I mean, you got plenty of options on the table.
Literally,
he chooses to be
anything.
Like, the 1975's magnum opus was, and I don't even remember the name of the song, it's been described as their We Didn't Start the Fire. And immediately I was like, I have bad feelings about this. I got to deploy my chute. I got to get out of here. He made me listen to the whole thing.
You know, when an artist is the one that filled out their Spotify description themselves, and this guy absolutely filled out his himself while staring in the mirror. He's like, what do I like about me? Where do I begin?
What's not to like, first of all?
Yeah.
Might be a shorter list.
A shorter list. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple songs that I wouldn't hate to hear again, but I just don't think there's anything I'm going to go back to.
Well, I'll hit you up with the first one of mine that I said I might go back, like one of mine that I gave a star. I gave Matty Healy a little star.
Yeah, but only in comparison to the other songs.
Right.
Because if we're comparing this to Thundercat, this was a dud.
Oh, yeah. He's clearing a very low bar, but I have to give him credit for it. And I have to be honest about my feelings. Yeah. I heard a Harry Styles song that I liked, and I was like, okay, well, I can't hold that against him.
Well, those are created specifically for you to like them. I mean, those are made in a lab.
What is it? Adore You? Is that it? Or is that someone else?
I mean, I think that's him. I don't know.
Whatever it was, I remember enjoying it, but
yeah,
not like
him.
it's the greatest thing ever written, but it was
yeah,
fun.
Is that the one where he's like, I'll walk the fire for you? Something, adore you? Blah, blah, blah.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I remember it was kind of groovy.
You don't have any s'mores, do you?
Oh, Jeff, what have I done to myself?
Yeah.
My Harry Styles stand now.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's not the worst.
Yeah, well, whatever. But anyway.
Whatever, yeah.
The first starred song that I saw here was Birthday Party.
Mm-hmm.
Ring any bells?
Yep.
The reason that my notes on this get a little sparse, A, because I was kind of writing them bitterly in protest, but also because I was like, I can't find any passion to go off too far on this. So it's a lot of like initial impressions. So with Birthday Party, it at least felt like it was telling a story. It was like musically uncomplicated and was a chance for him to try to do something different with the lyrics. And it wasn't the most creative thing I had ever heard, but it was the first song on the album that I wasn't like, you're doing too much. You're doing like Smile Session Brian Wilson shit, but not even that creative, because, a song like Heroes and Villains is off the fucking wall. It's all over the place. It's a composition. So you're not working that hard, but you are all over the place, and I just can't. It's like ambient and house and instrumental, and I'm just like, can you pick like one thing to get me acclimated here? This is crazy. Mm-hmm. So Birthday Party was the first time I was able to kind of like stop and focus on it and not be belligerently angry at him. So that's faint and damning praise, I guess.
Yeah, so that one, I think he did the interview where he said it was supposed to be, and I don't even understand what he was trying to say in the interview. Like, I really, these kind of people piss me off so much. He said it was the first thing I wrote for this album that I knew was great.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it was the first thing we got excited about. Inherently, excitement equals projection. So it was originally going to be the first single And then he was originally like, this is going to be like going to a party at different stages in life. And then he was like, well, no, because my whole life is a party. So that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, how does that make any sense? Like the first thing you said made sense. How does that make any sense?
How fucking out of touch is this guy?
Very, apparently.
Okay, I rescind my praise. I don't like this song anymore. Not after that.
I'm so sorry to ruin it for you, man.
It's not your fault, Geoff. Don't apologize for him.
God, if I could, there's probably maybe 2 songs on this album that if I would choose listening to them over an ice pick in my eardrum. Yeah. I think one of them, for whatever reason, I don't know why, that Jesus Christ 2005, God Bless America. I don't know why.
Next starred one.
Just because it's a little weird, little ditty. I don't know what about it really kind of did it for me. Really don't. Can't tell you.
I don't mean to besmirch Death Cab, but it had some kind of Death Cab-esque "I will follow you into the dark" kind of vibes. Plus, it's with Phoebe Bridgers,
Yeah, that could be that. Really, you're right. That could be what it is. And it does. Yeah, she does add. I think she adds a really nice touch to it because she is a very good singer. Certainly, a much more pleasant voice to listen to at this point. In the album than Matt Healy is, but
an oasis in the fucking desert that is Matt Healy's ego.
Yeah, that really. And then he was like, "Oh, I had Phoebe sing backup for me." I'm like, "Do you realize how much of an asshole you sound? Like you collaborated, like you just brought in Phoebe Bridgers as a backup singer, you douchebag."
Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, you douchebag. And he's British too, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, big time.
Oh, well, maybe that's why.
British boy.
Like I said, I don't know what it is. Just.
Can I ask you about these lyrics?
Sure. What do you got?
They sound fine, but I'm not sure they mean anything. See if you can.
They don't mean anything.
Unpack them. Okay. Well, just to prove that, soil just needs water to be, and the seed. So if we turn into a tree, can I be the leaves?
You know what's funny? I wrote those lines down with a question mark. Because what the fuck is he saying? It's just soil just needs water to be. No, it doesn't.
It's right? Soil is soil, irrespective of the water. I thought.
Yeah. What does it turn into without water?
Dirt? I don't know.
Nothing. I mean, does it just completely just disappear without water? I don't know. So soil just needs water to be and a seed. Soil doesn't need a seed either. Needs neither of those things to be soil. And then if we turn into a tree, can I be the leaves? What does that mean?
Well, I thought about that very literally. I was like, what is the function of a leaf on a tree? What is the function of leaves? Do you know? I don't know.
They take I assume they're the ones that handle the photosynthesis, right?
Oh,
they take in
you're right.
The sunlight and everything, and I think they take in some amount of water if it's raining, but most of the roots handle the nutrients in the water and the leaves handle the sunlight, as far as I understand. I'm no horticulturist, no big plant guy. I just smoke them. I don't know.
My stepdad saves them. Free plug for Tree Works, by the way. No, it's not a marijuana company, but I can see why you would think that.
No, it isn't.
Wink.
with Vermont legalizing soon, Bill may pivot business ideas.
I've told him, I was like, dude, just sell me the Tree Works IP and I will open up the first legal dispensary in Vermont and it will be a destination.
You just got to move the S over and just make it Trees Work.
Trees Work, man. And I'll pay him $10 an hour to be the leaf mascot, and I'll go, look what I've done to your company. You worked so hard to build 11-time arborist of the year, my ass. You're my tree man now. Dance for the people.
Can we start calling Bill the plug?
The plug?
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, I'll be honest with you boys. I don't think I like that very much.
I like Seahawks football. I don't like the plug. I don't like that.
I like Black Sabbath. We got to have him on to talk about the Sabbath show he went to that turned into a riot.
Okay, well, I think we should have listeners maybe tell us about their favorite concert experience.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Maybe whenever we have a guest, they have to, that's one thing we do every time we have a guest is we ask them the ending question, what's your favorite concert experience?
That's a good one, and I got to think about that too for myself. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's either gonna be Meatloaf or Springsteen or Coheed. I don't know. It's just gonna be a toss up, whichever I've probably listened to more recently.
It's my favorite experience, man. Yeah, you said that about Born to Run, buddy.
But we're giving Matt Healy a break right now. We got off track.
True.
Instead of talking more shit about this bullshit. It is unbelievable how up his ass he was in this album.
I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I realized, too, the next one that I have starred, which is, I believe, 4 songs later after Jesus Christ Superstar 5000 or whatever that song's called. Which, by the way, I still don't understand the lyrics, the leaves. Like, are you saying, like, I'll absorb the nutrients and you'll just get them from me? That seems abusive and toxic. Like, I'm not sure that I want to be that guy's tree, quite frankly.
Well, him saying soil needed water to be and a seed. Soil didn't need anybody else. It's like he's dependent on probably drugs and people that are bad for him. And then he's asking someone else to be dependent on him. I don't think he knows like healthy relationships.
It's just Matty Healy gaslighting a ficus.
Yeah.
Can I be your leaves? You've got no one else. I'll water you.
He just plucks one off slowly every day. That's his like, he's gaslighting. He's like, oh, well, you've got no leaves left. I guess I'm going to have to be your leaves now.
I'll be your leaves now, ficus.
It's a shame, isn't it?
He just gets naked and hugs this tree, and the authorities find him and finally put him away and put an end to this.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, don't let him do any of those like prison programs of making music either. Let's just cut this off.
No. Don't even let that guy make a God's Eye. You throw him in solitary and you don't let him have visitors.
Yeah, I think I'm going to leave the one positive thing. Again, he does listen to the first song because it's a speech by Greta Thunberg, climate activist. Really pretty impressive person. Definitely the most impressive person that contributed to this album, I would say.
Just about to say. Most impressive person on this album, but that's a low bar to clear.
Yeah, lyrically, she was the strongest. Sonically the strongest. Just emotionally the strongest. I really listen to the first song and don't bother with the rest.
Yeah, it's all downhill from there. I mean, I will say, though, I did realize the one that I was like, I literally wrote, nothing revealed. This is a nice lo-fi hip-hop song. If Mac Miller or Thundercat did this, I would love it.
Yeah, and I could see that with that one. Yeah, I think that would be pretty accurate.
The next one I had any kind of praise for was Too Shy. I said, this is not bad. It's got 80s post-punk vibes. And that's literally all I wrote. So I guess that makes it an acceptable song. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I just like savaged. I did not like Yeah, I Know, because I literally just wrote, ugh.
Yeah, there was a lot that I wrote, because I'll write the title every time the song starts when I'm taking my notes. Write the title down, then I'll do a few bullet points just so I have a couple things to mention. There were so many songs I just didn't. I wrote the title and that was it.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't want to. I was like, I don't want to think about this song ever again.
Yeah, I mean, so many of them are just me like trying to find something nice to say about it and just failing, because I didn't know, honestly. I was like, Geoff might be really enthusiastic about this album. I don't know if this is a gamble for him or if he's like listened to this and is like kind of endorsing this. So like I gotta like feel him out and not be too big of a dick. And as soon as you were like, I was kind of lukewarm on this album, I was like, okay, Kitty's claws are coming out now.
You knew you could pull me to the dark side.
I wrote down next to the song Shiny, this is the soundtrack to getting fingered in the medical tent at a Passion Pit concert.
So Shiny Collarbone, that one that you're talking about is a little, I will give him a little credit. This one's a little bit of a jam, but he's not even singing on it. It's someone else. Like,
exactly.
So this just proves the point I was making earlier, that if he just handled the music and let somebody else do the lyrics, we'd all be a lot better off.
He'd probably be an all right producer, man, if he just steered into that and just like supporting other acts.
Because there was clearly tons of musical influences throughout this whole album. I mean, there was like 80s pop. There was just like folk acoustic guitar. There was just straight up hip hop.
But it was all just so generic. Like he did generic. Like if you were making a school project on YouTube and you needed royalty free music to be like, oh, I'm shooting a scene in a diner to talk about fractions, so I need like generic 50s diner music. I'll go on YouTube and get a royalty free one. Like they were to that level of quality where it's like, okay, you're very obviously doing an 80s post-punk thing because this sounds like generic 80s post-punk. It's not like, wow, he really took it and made it his own in a way like Favored Son Thundercat could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just seemed like he has a lot of ambitions and does not have the talent or wherewithal to get there.
There was another song I dispensed with writing the full names of songs, so all it says is what should I? And I wrote, these guys are on the vanguard of a cultural revolution / the voice of a generation. I'm not looking for Dylan's Masters of War, but Jesus fucking Christ. The lyrics on that one must have been particularly bad because that one apparently triggered me.
Is this the What Should I Say? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, the one, what did you say? Tell him that all the people made me. What did you say? Tell him that Ambien makes me crazy. And it's like a conversational song back and forth. So there's that idea is great. Like a conversation between, whether it's with somebody else or even more interesting conversation with yourself, that you're like, you're maybe not split personalities, but everybody's got an inner dialogue. And it sounds like, this could be that, but it's just dumb. There's so much opportunity and it's just dumb.
Yeah, I will say this. There are some really good ideas in this album that just come to zero satisfying conclusion because, as you say, they're fucking dumb as dog dirt. It's so frustrating. Yeah, it really,
especially with how strong all the other albums have been that we've talked about so far. I mean, I think this is the first one I'm going to say skip it. I think every other one we've said is at least worth a strong listen.
I'm going to say listen to the Greta Thunberg song, which is the first one, and then skip to the end and listen to Guys. Yeah, those are the only two required listens I would say off of this. Other than that, skip this fucking thing.
Yeah. Guys is a good song. Again, like that kind of like love for your friends, same way that you would write a love song for like an actual lover. But
Guys is an actively good song. Like it's an actively good song, which is like incredibly surprising for this album.
Yeah, one out of how many songs on this album? Like 20?
23 or something like that.
Yeah, he's 1 for 20. Yeah, it was just not great. Not great. And apparently a second part of the previous album, I can imagine if the other one has similar things to this one, I'm not going to like that either. So oh, and I want to mention this other thing too, because it started out when I heard it, I was like, oh, this could be kind of cool, but they do the same lyrics as their intro song on every other album but this one. This is the first one that they have different words for. Every other album had the same words, same way The Wire would do Down in the Hole.
Oh, yeah, the 1975,
Yeah, but it's like a different singer every time. It's like they do a different musical arrangement, but around those same lyrics every single album.
Yeah.
And then they changed it for this one, and I'm glad they did because they made it so that there was at least a song I liked.
You're talking about the Greta Thunberg one, right?
Yeah.
Because they used the same title every time, the 1975, and that was the anomaly here was everyone was expecting it to be same lyrics, different sound, but then it was a spoken word piece by Greta Thunberg with the title, which is what threw a lot of people off. And I'm sure that when he was sitting there, he's like, I could call it Greta's Invocation to Music or something whimsical. I assume he sounds like this. But I think I'll just be an asshole and take all my stupid fans who I don't actually respect, and I'll call it the 1975, and I'll honeypot them into thinking it's going to be the right song, isn't it? But it's going to be a speech by a Swedish kid. He's just such a prick. I hate him.
Yeah, I really, and thanks for getting the message out about climate change. Obviously, we need to do better about that, but man, I wish it came from somebody else.
Yeah.
Sincerely wish it came from somebody else. So absolutely skip it. Except for maybe Guys. That's it.
Skip it.
Yeah, don't bother. Okay, let's move on to something a little more positive here in the time that we have left. So this week we decided just to take a look at a couple of new singles. We have the new one by SZA as well as the new one by Chris Stapleton. Talk about the new one by SZA first. It's just a really good R&B song. I mean, if you need something to throw on your party playlist, it's gonna have a really good vibe. Really, just no negative parts to this one at all for me. I really think this one was a bop.
Yeah, I agree. And will confess to an inadequacy on my part to kind of describe in better detail what I liked about it. This is going to sound like such a backhanded compliment, or maybe not even a compliment. It's just going to sound like a straight dig. But I listened to the song twice, and both times it was just so like chill and smooth that I like was listening to it and enjoying it, but like couldn't really listen to it critically. I was just kind of like lost in the vibe, so to speak. I mean, that makes me sound like a boomer, but it's the truth. I just kind of was like caught up in the song, and it's like the Chris Stapleton song. I really kind of listened to the lyrics because, not to jump ahead, those were like were very resonant with me. But the SZA, I've never sounded more ridiculous. But I'll have the SZA. It was quite good. I don't know. It was just fucking groovy. It was a great hip hop song, and I just kind of fell into it. So I don't have anything more like academic to say about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a good song, produced by the Neptunes. So everybody's probably familiar with a bunch of Neptune songs. It does have that kind of signature Neptunes feel to it, as well as, I guess, every song. My fiance just enlightened me to this fact earlier. Every song that Pharrell has a hand in that he produces, it has like a 4-beat intro. Like there's just a 4-note like just hit before the rest of the beat comes in every song that he does. I'm gonna have to go back and listen for that. But it was kind of a cool little tidbit, a little signature that I didn't realize he did.
Interesting. I did not know that either.
Yeah. And it has, I don't know if I mentioned Ty Dolla $ign.
Yep.
So he's been around a little while, and, I think really kind of did well with his verse on this one. I think it was a really kind of laid back song. There wasn't a need to have a really aggressive verse or anything like that. I think it was just a need for like another voice on here as like kind of a counterpoint to SZA. And I think it was a good song.
Oh yeah. You could walk through a fucking house party like this. I don't know if you've seen the music video to Kendrick Lamar, These Walls, but like walking through this like dark house party with all these like neon lights on the walls and shit. Maybe you're wearing your bathrobe. It's kind of like a Playboy grotto type party. Only like it's just got this great comfortable party vibe. It's not a party song like we're gonna rock out like Andrew WK, but it's definitely a party song. Like you put this on and everybody there, I think, just starts to groove on it. It's really fucking smooth. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I would like to hear more SZA. I definitely haven't listened to very much. I mean, I'm sure I've heard more than I'm aware of, and just didn't realize it was her. But I definitely want to get into more of it if there's going to be more of it like this.
Well,
really good.
Why don't we? I mean, we could do. Well, what's our rule for time periods for picking new albums?
I mean, we don't have anything, I don't think, really hard and set. I think we were trying to skew more towards recent albums. But if she's got one and we're talking about her music here, it might be one that we dive into.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you independent research. You're going to listen to Control. It's from 2017. For the people out there, too, this is extra credit. Listen to Control. It's a good album. It's good salad.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna check that one out. And if you have any, like I said, if you have any other SZA songs that you think we should listen to, or anything in that vein, that you think we should listen to, we'd love to hear it. And moving on to the one that naturally probably I was going to enjoy more. I feel like it was kind of an uphill battle here. But Chris Stapleton, new one is called Starting Over. And like any other Chris Stapleton song, it's immediately you can tell that it's him singing. I think he's got one of the more distinctive voices in country music and really in music in general. One of my favorite voices in
it's
country.
Gotten more distinctive, dude. That was one of the first things that it's like so fucking weird how many things we've been linked up on tonight, because when I was listening to it I was like, god damn, he's like grown into his sound at age 39 or however old he is, but like he's like really grown into that distinct Chris Stapleton sound. It's really fucking cool.
Yeah, and I feel like this one, because he's got several songs, even going back to the Traveler album. He's got so many songs where he really belts. Tennessee Whiskey, he can really belt, and he's an incredible singer. But I think what people don't realize is how much control he has over his voice. It is really, truly, and if you, and I'm not trying to sound like any sort of music snob here or anything like that, but I am the one with the music podcast. But he really has a way when you listen to Tennessee Whiskey, that's one that I think people are probably the most familiar with by him. The way that he does his vocal runs, try to do that when he's doing them. Try to match what he's doing, and I'm talking to you, the listeners. And whether you can sound as good as him or hit the notes that he is, just try to make your voice change at the same points he does. And realize how difficult that is to do.
Turns
the
on a
things that he
fucking
does
dime.
with his voice. Yeah, it's really, really impressive what he can do with that. But I like on this one, on Starting Over, the new single, that it's almost a little stripped down. Like he holds back, which tells me that knows that he's got. It's kind of like, it's better to be, a gardener with a gun than a warrior with a spade or something like. I don't know what the saying is. But it's like we know he's got that voice, but he doesn't always have to use it.
Right, yeah. And I think what that said to me is, as soon as I saw like how dressed down the vocals were, it's like this is clearly way more about the message here than it is showing off. And then very quickly it became apparent why, because I just locked onto those lyrics. And like I like jokingly refer to myself as a professional drifter because I've just like moved so many times in my life. I've lived a bunch of different places in this country, and it's that feeling I know so well, where you like feel your time coming to an end in a certain place, and you're like, all right, it's time to enact your protocol and pick up and start all over again. This is just
I mean, that's what we did when we moved to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's exactly that same kind of thing. Is we basically just. I don't even know how we decided on Austin. I think I had decided I wanted to go and then asked if you wanted to go too. And you're like, yeah, let's do it.
I remember exactly the genesis of this. You, me, Tanner, stumbling home from the bar, head first into traffic. But yeah, we were walking back from a night at the old gin mill, and I was about to graduate from grad school, and you were getting ready. You knew you wanted to move somewhere. And you threw out Nashville, and I threw out Los Angeles. And then at the same time, we were both like, although I have also been thinking about Austin. It was one of those moments where we're like, oh, okay. How interesting.
Yeah. It just converged.
I think I figured out, too, why I kept that. Remember I sent you a picture a while ago of a Gusto's sign or like a street sign that we had signed on Gusto's night?
Yeah.
It like vaguely came back to me thinking about, like, one time I was thinking about our whole Austin thing. I was like, how did that all come to be? And I got this like drunken fragment of that. I think we like signed the sign as a pact of like, we're doing it. We're going to move. And I'm sure we were like, it's settled. We're moving to Toledo. That was the city that we said, right? Toledo. Write it down.
We're staking our entire future on stolen property.
Yeah, we signed a pact in stolen blood that night.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, like Chris Stapleton says in this song, let's take our chances and roll the dice. That's kind of what we did. And so when I hear a song like this, I'm familiar with that, where it's like, you don't really know how it's going to turn out, but it doesn't mean you've got to be worried about it. It doesn't mean you got to be sad about it.
Oh yeah. That's the thing that I had to, and this is, I guess, less about music and more about therapy at this point for me, but
let it out.
That was something I had to learn the hard way. Was like, I used to get really sucked in wherever I was living. So it was like, okay, I lived in Vermont my whole life. Then I had to go to school in Indiana, and that was like the scariest fucking thing ever. And I like did not embrace that transition and like got used to it, but like refused to allow myself to believe that I would get used to it. So the first month of adjusting to that was fucking hell. But then you go through it and you're like, okay, well, that's it. I've grown as a person in some small way. But then it was like, okay, now I got to leave. I ended up going back to school in Vermont. Now I got to leave college and I got to go to Boston. I'm scared to do that. And I was scared to go to Austin and like scared to go to New York. It was just like all these different times where I was like, this is a really exciting opportunity that I should be psyched about. I'm just kind of shitting my pants. And now I'm like retroactively excited about all of those and excited about wherever I go next, because I'm not going to stick around Vermont much longer. So it's like,
where are you thinking about?
Definitely think about coming back to Austin. That's on the table.
Yeah.
Raleigh, North Carolina is on the table. My sister's down there. It's apparently a cool city.
Yeah, my cousin Chelsea that lives, I think in Raleigh, I think is where she's at. It's either Raleigh or Charlotte. I think it's Raleigh where she's at.
Yeah.
But she's also a friend of the pod, cousin of the pod.
What's up,
Shout
cousin
out
of the
Chelsea.
pod? You're my cousin now too.
I mean, obviously, I know where my money would be, where my loyalties would lie with that.
Sure.
I'd love to have you back down here in Austin, but I think songs like this are kind of exactly what brings you into the mindset of being ready to make a move like that.
Definitely. And this is hopefully not invading your personal life too much, but in your Austin journey, you found so many good things, like found the woman you're going to marry and like all these really cool fucking things that are just like so amazing. And that's something I've realized in the last like year or so about myself is like, fuck, I have things that I really, really want that I need to be proactive about getting. And one of those is just like, get out and have that adventure and see what comes and take everything that comes your way. So you listen to a song like this, it just galvanizes you. I heard it, I was like, okay, ready to go right now. Load up the fucking car.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing if this makes it on an album or if he just releases as a single, or if this means that an album is coming. Because I mean, it's been, I think, 1.5 or 2 years since he released the second From a Room volume. So
let's go to the tape. I'll look on old Spotify.
Yeah, take a look. And I think, and then while we're looking at that, we do want to start to bridge into sort of asking our lovely listeners about, kind of where you want to see this go. We're thinking we really like to get some submissions. We've had a really good response so far from folks that have listened to it. And did you get the year of the release for the Stapleton album?
Yes, 2017.
Oh, so we're 3 years on. So we could be looking at we are due for a Stapleton album. That would be great. That'd be a nice little pickup for 2020.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep you updated. I'm sure that's probably one that we'll do on the pod here when it does come out. Because I think we're both fairly established Chris Stapleton fans. So
we'll clear the room in our schedules.
Yeah. So if that one comes out, we'll certainly be taking a look at that. But in the meantime, until that one comes out, we do want to know what you'd like to hear us talk about. We really have appreciated so far, like I said, the response that we've gotten. I've gained lots of people that have followed us and subscribed to things for us, rated us on Apple Podcasts, which you can do. Please go and do that. Rate, review, subscribe, all those fun things. It helps us see, what's working and what isn't. And Alex, kind of what were you thinking about as far as how you might like them to submit some ideas to us?
Yeah. So like off the top of my head, the most convenient thing I can think of, and the I would say by like far and away our largest following is on Instagram. So Instagram DMs is probably the most convenient funnel. We realize some people might find this through Twitter. Some people might find it more convenient to email us. So, I mean, in the event that you want to choose your own adventure, it's Out on That Line on Instagram. It's at Out on That Line 1 on Twitter. And it's outonthatline@gmail.com for the email. My recommendation is Instagram. I think that's where most people interface with us socially. And the things that I personally am the most interested in would be, I mean, obviously, like whatever feedback you have, give us. But specifically, if you have like ideas for topics or segments, like when you were bringing up earlier, you brought up Eddie and the Cruisers. I was thinking to myself, fuck, the day we do the Eddie and the Cruisers episode, because there's no reason we can't watch a movie about music and do like a fun one-off episode talking about that movie.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. And I love that movie. So absolutely, we could do that.
So you know what I mean? Like if you have a cool idea like that, like, hey, will you guys like do musicals? Like no one really listens to musicals. Would you guys review a musical? Like we're open to whatever you have to suggest. And then specifically for next week, you and I talked about opening up the main, if these topics are the amuse-bouche, then the true meat and potatoes is the 2 albums we do every week, right? It's the cornerstone of the pod. So why don't you guys suggest some albums that you would like us to cover? We do tend to, I think last time we set our rule, and I don't remember if it was on the show or when we were talking before or after, but I think we said we were going to try to do more recent albums. So we're not going to be like super cretins about that rule. But, if you happen to have, like I would really like to do The Weeknd's latest album. I haven't listened to it yet. So that's one I would be interested in doing. And if that was something someone suggested, that's great. That's new. That's,
Yeah.
Do the new Waxahachie, whatever you guys, if you have newer things. But we'll pretty much just want to hear what albums you want us to cover, what you're interested in hearing these two golden-throated gods on this here pod talk about.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Don't get used to
I think what we're most excited about is really, getting the new ideas. So, we'd really like, knowing that, there are quite a few people listening. I think certainly a lot more than we had anticipated at first.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for that. We really, really appreciate that. Let's keep that rolling. We want to find out what is going to make it more beneficial for you, because we can keep going on. We'll still, I still do have to, full disclosure, we'll still keep it at our discretion on what, does make it on to the pod, but, we do want ideas, because otherwise I'm just going to keep going back to country albums and, the things that I listen to every day. The 1975 happened to be one that was suggested to me, because it had come out recently. So, and for no other reason, it's just, they've got a new album. So I took a look. I knew they were a popular group. So I was like, I'm not familiar with them, so it'd be a good thing to do. Clearly mistakes were made.
Well, and for the record, to the person that did suggest that, it's like nothing personal, obviously. Like if you suggest something and we savage it, like it's not a reflection on your taste. It's just like an honest reaction to the material. It will be entertaining, and it's totally anonymous. So, I mean, unless you don't want it to be, if you're like, hey, tell everybody I told you to do this. Well, you take your life into your own hands, because if we like it, don't you look great? But if we hate it, oh my God, you're going to look so stupid.
Yeah. And we will do personal attacks. Don't think we're above that for a second.
Oh yeah. I'm a big ad hominem personal attacks guy. So look out for that.
Well, I don't know. I think we're getting on in time here. So
I think so.
I think what we'll do is just kind of let you know, go ahead and follow us, rate, review, subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify now as well. It's really exciting to be on those two. It seems like it's much more accessible for people. So let us know where you're listening. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Those Instagram DMs always open. So we'll be taking a look at those. On Instagram, again, Out on That Line. On Twitter, at Out on That Line 1. Email is outonthatline@gmail.com. My name is Geoff. His name is Alex. We are Out on That Line. Was there anything else, Alex?
That's it for me. Have a great week, everybody.
All right. We'll see you next time.